Pauline Ades-Mevel, who is a spokesperson for Reporters Without Borders. She joins me from Paris. Pauline, how much danger do reporters such as Shireen Abu Aqla face day to day in doing their jobs?
Well, the danger of the war zone is obvious, and especially in Jenin. It is important to recall that all states have to bring protection to journalists when they cover such conflict. And today we are not only saddened at Reporters Without Borders after the death of journalist Shireen Abu Aqla, but we condemn her killing because it constitutes a serious breach of the Geneva Conventions as well as Resolution 2222 of the UN Security Council on the security of journalists. Journalists must be protected, especially in part of the world where they could be targeted. She was identified wearing a jacket saying press. She was known as a journalist. She was an experienced journalist. So obviously it's becoming more and more dangerous.
So how can journalists be better protected? Because it's my understanding that she was wearing, a flak jacket with the word press on it and even a helmet. I mean, what more can be done?
Well, the most important thing today, because this case is not the only one, is to call on the authorities to protect journalists and just recall the international convention. What we're seeing today is that experienced journalist was killed even though she was wearing a signed press. But what we're seeing in Ukraine is that 7 journalists have been killed since the beginning of the conflict, targeted as journalists, and they were identified as such. So they were targeted because they were journalists. So the first thing is to call on countries, authorities to protect journalists and to obtain sanctions and to see those responsible for this death tried. And at this stage, with this killing, if it appears that there are some responsibility from the military Israeli military, then it is absolutely essential that those involved in the killing are brought to justice. What we demand at Reporters Without Borders is not a joint investigation into the circumstances of the deaths, but an independent international investigation to be launched so there is no partiality and we know exactly what has happened and why she was killed.
Do you think we're seeing an increase in violence against journalists in conflict zones? Because it seemed like it used to be that a member of the press in a war zone was sacred, where all sides would leave them alone. But do you think that's changed?
Recently, it has changed. The past 2 years, Reporters Without Borders, when publishing its roundup at the end of the year, was not satisfied, because we never can be satisfied when we have to deplore almost 50 deaths per year. But we were seeing in our findings less deaths, especially in war zones. So around 50 journalists killed throughout the world each year, and much less than in previous years when we used to reach 80, 90 sometimes. But this year, as we speak, 25 journalists have already been killed since the beginning of 2022. And we deplore all these killings because most of them were targeted. It seems that the conflict in Ukraine and the ground in general is becoming again extremely dangerous.
All right, we'll leave it there. Pauline Ades-Mevel joining us from Paris. Thank you.